what we've really got to realize for multi-day tours, as most tour operators would know, is that it's a completely different booking journey. Like, they're usually booking it well in advance. It usually aligns with international flights. In fact, with our airline partners, it's like we find that 55% of the bookings are actually driven by the multi-day tour first. It's the first item they purchase to lock in their dates, and then they'll book all the other tour or travel products around there. So it's actually acting as lead generation as well as boosting up the cart value.
Hello everyone, my name is Chris Torres of the Tourism Marketing Agency, and welcome to the Digital Tourism Show. In this episode, I am chatting with Murray Decker, the CEO of TourAmigo. Now, TourAmigo are a booking platform with a strong focus on the multi-day tour sector. Murray and myself have a chat about how technology is changing within the tourism sector, specifically within tours and activities, and how the future of the sector will look a lot different to what has gone before. How we experience tours, the technology we use during the experience itself, what shifts are we currently seeing in this sector, and what this means for everyone involved. So welcome to the Digital Tourism Show, episode 264. So thanks, Murray, for joining us on the Digital Tourism Show. It's an absolute pleasure. So before we get stuck in, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you find yourself working within the tourism sector?
Yeah, Chris, thanks for having me. Look, I've been in the tourism sector for about 15 years now, maybe a bit more. I originally studied marketing and strategic management and actually went into the banking industry and thought after about 12 months, this is not exactly the path I want to go down for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And did the cliche thing of moving to, being an Australian, moving to the UK and London and working and living above pubs. And while I was there, coincidentally, the Travel Corporation for Kentucky and Bustabout's head office was a couple of doors down. And strangely enough, I got to know them pretty well on a Friday afternoon serving them. And one day popped in and said, look, is there opportunities to work as a tour guide through Europe? And that sort of started that huge application process. I started working as a tour guide all through Europe, mainly for Bustabout, for about 2 to 3 years. And then I took over in operations down in Greece and Spain and started managing quite a few tour guides, the products down there where we went Mykonos, Paros, Santorini, Ios, and over in Spain it was Ibiza, Mallorca, Menorca, and the Balearic Islands. And I did that for another 3 or 4 years, actually. It was an unusual sort of time to be spent as a tour guide. Usually your body fails you before you want to finish, but really loved that, really enjoyed it, and then decided to finish up and head home back to Australia. And on the journey back, I went to Asia, and my boss was there and said, look, we're actually expanding Bustabout into Asia. Would you like to be a part of this? And so I became the operations supervisor there and helped create some of the products that Bustabout had in Asia, and then moved back to Australia and worked for G Adventures as the operations manager, or in operations for G Adventures for their Australian products with it. And then that migrated into corporate with Flight Centre, as well as retail and also product with that. So all along that journey, I was sort of dabbling with TourAmigo. So it's been around for about 5 or 6 years. And it came about because I always wanted to start my own company. I was actually on a flight from UK to Greece and thought I was going to revolutionize the in-flight magazine and created this amazing concept map about how I could put travel technology magazines. But by the time I landed, I realized I had no experience in magazines, no connections in the airlines, and no budget to create those sort of in-flight magazines. But part of that concept, yeah, exactly. But part of that concept map on the back of this airplane sick bag, which I've still got, was a little bubble, which was tour operators. And I went back and realized that previous passengers, friends, families have said, thanks very much. Great trip, over in Greece or, in Europe. We're heading to Africa. Who would you recommend for us to travel with? What tour operator would be the best sort of, multi-day tour operator to go with? And I realized I had sort of 6 different templates for all different parts of the world that I was sending through. And so I went back to him and said, look, why are you asking me? And so sort of found that there was a gap. There was really no sort of information online. Even if they do book through a travel agency, they just wanted to do their own research. And that's where the name came from. That's where I studied a bit of Spanish in Spain, but TourAmigo, to a friend, was because friends were approaching me for that information. So.
Well, so really from the ground up, as it were, not being the foots on the ground with a tour guide all the way through to where you are now. So it's you've probably seen it all.
Yep. There's been a few sites.
That's fantastic. Well, today, I'm glad to have you on, because today we're going to be talking about how technology is changing, especially within the tours and activities sector, and multi-day tours specifically. How the future of the sector will look is going to be, going forward rather, is going to be very much different to what it's gone in the past, even just over the last year or two, because of everything that's been going on with the pandemic. Things have changed quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
How we experience the tours, the technology we use during these experiences. With you developing these sort of technologies or part of it, what shifts are you currently seeing within the sector that you see is going to be vastly different going forward?
Yeah, there's certainly been, and on your point, a massive shift on the intention of tour operators to look for not only distribution. That's been sort of the primary sort of focus. Okay, we need to diversify our revenue streams, and then that's led to, okay, how do we get that distribution? We need sort of APIs and live connectivity. Is there some software out there that we can either use, or do we need to build our own software internally? So we've seen a huge interest. Like pre-COVID, 88% of sales were still coming through your bricks and mortar travel agencies, which is fantastic. But I think that's where COVID's been that catalyst of, there's been a huge change in that sort of traditional travel agency landscape. And there's still going to be some of the bigger drivers of their sales and whatnot. But at the same time, these tour operators are going, okay, let's have a look at the online. How do we get onto sort of airlines, OTAs, meta searches, and those sort of alike? So that has been a huge shift, just in terms of people are now coming to us as opposed to us going to them saying, look, we think this is what you should need to have. The second sort of component is that there's probably been a restructure in terms of really focusing on their core products. So we have seen a little bit of a trend that people that may have been focusing on day tours and activities have now started going into the multi-day tours. Some have done a complete shift into multi-day tours, just because of the higher value products and the higher commissions that's involved in there. Granted, they do come with generally higher costs as well. So, but it's something that from a customer-driven perspective, people are now booking, but for longer trips. Like they're coming out of COVID, like they're booking massive trips actually, compared to like your average duration might have been 10 to 12 days. They're now almost double that in terms of their interest and what they're looking at doing. So yeah, and the last bit I want to highlight there is that it's also been a big shift into that private bespoke, or having private groups, whether that's driven by influencers or whether that's just you have a special occasion that comes across. It's not necessarily they're changing their business, they're adding that as a product that they can both do private and your sort of set departures.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree. We're seeing that with a lot of our customers, that consumers, as I've always said, the travel demand is huge, and consumers are booking longer trips just because they've not been able to for the last 2 years. Or it's part of that is also merging in with working while traveling. So they may go with their families, travel for a month, for example, but 2 weeks of that is with the family, having a trip and a holiday. The other 2 weeks, while still there, they're maybe doing work as well. So they're sort of combining both the sort of vacation as well as the sort of workation, or whatever you want to call it,
Exactly.
sort of at the same time. So that we're definitely seeing that sort of similar trend.
Yeah, we've heard that with the accommodations, like they're booking either through the hotels or, stays or Airbnb or whatever it may be, that the request now coming through is, can I work on the balcony? Is there a PowerPoint, and does the Wi-Fi stretch out to that sort of space? So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that is a big thing. I know we're going slightly off topic, but for those accommodations, if any accommodations are listening, I use Airbnb a lot, but sometimes you go to a place and the Wi-Fi is just terrible. You have to use your phone as a hotspot and things like that, or whatever. So that is going to be a big decider for people. If one, do you have a hot tub? Probably, and two, do you have decent Wi-Fi? That's going to be the two big ones. So,
and maybe a floating table for the hot tub.
Yeah, well, I like that idea. That's good. I like it. So no, when we spoke previously, you mentioned that there are big gains to be had in experiencing or enhancing the guest experience rather through technology, especially during the sort of purchase experience. Now, can you give us an example of how you feel that could look like going forward now that things have changed?
Yeah, so there's two angles here. So from a travel agency perspective, traditionally it's been in store. Here's three different brochures. We'll open up to the destination that we're talking about and try to find and compare what the differences in those sort of different packages. And then the agent would then usually traditionally log into the back end of the tour operator system and start sort of entering in the customer's details. So the digitalization in that respect is that we want to put that on their monitors, so they can flip around their monitors and have like a table style format where they can compare the different tours, the different functionalities, features, inclusions, all side by side, which is what our technology does for a selling perspective as well. For online, it's an unknown. There's so many partners we're talking to, and that we've also signed up and that we're integrating with at the moment, who have never sold multi-day tours. And the common mistake or assumption is that let's just put it in with activities and day tours. And what we've really got to realize for multi-day tours, as most tour operators would know, is that it's a completely different booking journey. Like, they're usually booking it well in advance. It usually aligns with international flights. In fact, with our airline partners, it's like we find that 55% of the bookings are actually driven by the multi-day tour first. It's the first item they purchase to lock in their dates, and then they'll book all the other tour or travel products around there. So it's actually acting as lead generation as well as boosting up the cart value. But yeah, and that journey. So for example, activities and day tours, incredible systems out there, and you basically put in your location like that you're going to, and it searches a radius for activities. But when you have a multi-day tour that might be going through several different states, cities, countries, whatever it may be, it's very hard to search for that in like putting a dot down and what's the radius. So it's essential that you have a multi-destinational search on there, so you can actually plug in, say, for example, we're going from France to Netherlands to Belgium to Germany, that they can actually put all of that in and look for the tours that actually hit all those destinations they really want to see. And then you got to look from the customer perspective. Is like generally they have sites, like they say, I want to see the Eiffel Tower. And if you've been in it long enough, you know that sometimes the traveller may not know exactly where the Eiffel Tower is located. And that's probably a bad example, but they might say, I really want to see this site that I've heard about, the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Where is actually that located and what do I put in? So you need to also have the search functionality where they can type in what is the key sites that they really want to see, and it can map out the different tours from there. That comparison side of things, the online bookability side of things, is just essential with that sort of flow. And it's been proven, like even when we were originally business to consumer many years ago, we saw traction with people booking online. They didn't want to talk to us, because they're set sort of packages. But at the same time, it's still great to have that hybrid approach where you can have them online so they can do their research and have the expertise of a travel agent that can actually support that, and also say, hey, there's some other travel products you probably need, such as insurance and flights and the rest of it. So it's just, that's where when we're talking to distribution and selling partners, it needs to be a separate vertical. You need to treat it like cruise. You don't put a cruise or the cruise products in amongst a sailing, day tour sailing, and that's the sort of comparison we use, particularly if you want conversion. And there's companies that have tried this in the past, and it just hasn't worked with that user experience. They've done very well in their other parts, whether it's day tour activities or they specialize in multi-day, but it just doesn't work combining those two together. So that's sort of one thing that we, going into that new territory of selling online or even featuring online, but the bookability online, you really need to have a very good, clean user experience, user interface, so that they can be sort of guided through that journey to find the tour that really suits their needs.
No, fantastic. How do you see, sort of emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and autonomous vehicles? Do you see that as an exciting development in our industry, or do you have concerns with that? And is that something you're even thinking about for your own platform? Is that something you're going to look at going forward?
Yeah, look, I love it. I think the more technology, the more innovation, the better. We're really, it's sort of hypothetical talking, as to whether it's going to work or not. I think we just got to try it. But I mean, you go back in history, like some of the tours might have been on horse and cart, and then the bus came in, and oh my God, like all the coach, should I say. So you just got to look at, in 10, 15 years time, we might be looking back going, oh my God, how do we do that without this AI technology? And how awesome it is it now that we can be in these sort of vehicles and the tour guide doesn't have to be driving or whatever it may be. You could easily adapt it to different products. But I'm all for it. And in terms of AI, yeah, we'll start looking at sort of incorporating that a little bit into it, but it's more going to be chatbots with some basic AI just to help people, like, because our model's more business to business and helping them, the tour operators, manage the system, having that sort of support, 24/7 support for them, and then going into maybe that sort of technology can be used to communicate with their selling partners and to their tour guides on the ground, and that's where I can see the immediate benefit, but I'm sure it's going to be a lot more advanced than that.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I love the fact that where it's going, and I don't see. I know a lot of operators think, oh, I don't want an AI tour guide because it's going to take over my job or anything like that. And no, I don't see it like that. No, I see it as, as you could basically be selling tours. An AI tour guide could deliver some of these tours for people. It's like audio tours. People, there's a certain demographic that like an audio tour. They would like this sort of thing as well, and then being able to generate that revenue in the background while you are going out doing your live tours and in-person tours and things like that. So it's, to me, I just see it as another revenue stream like audio tours, and as well as the AI, as you sort of mentioned there, is helping with the sales process or helping with your own teams and things on the ground. It just makes your business run more efficiently. So I'm all for it. So I think it'll be great, personally.
Exactly. And I think a lot of the time we think technology and software is just going to be replacing people, but we certainly go out saying, here's some tools to help your staff to become more efficient and more focused on the core of the business of, your amazing products and selling them and looking after your customer, like, as opposed to spending time on spreadsheets and calendars and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I know, and anyone working in tours and activities know how fragmented this industry is compared to like the hotel industry and everything else. Do you, obviously with you being a platform and working in this industry, do you see the need for more standardization across all platforms and technologies to push the sector forward, or do you actually not see that as an issue at all? Do you think it's actually going to become even more fragmented? How do you see that playing out?
No, I see technology being a necessity to standardize a bit of the like a lot of the, particularly in the multi-day tour sector, where, I think we came out with a stat the other day that 40 to 45% of tour operators don't even have a website, like a multi-day tour company. So in terms of gauging or estimating the size of the industry as well, like we can make estimations, but it's only based on what's been sold in the past, and we potentially are missing out on a majority of that data that's going through. But in terms of we definitely believe in that, because we're separate to some of the companies that might, even any part of the industry, that are making custom builds for companies, where they sort of say, okay, what your needs are, and a tech company, whether external, internal, builds a custom build, and then they have to keep updating it and making corrections, and it can be a very expensive process, which is why 95% of the multi-day tour operators don't have a back-end system. So our motto is to create a specialized system for multi-day tours that can standardize the layouts, the formats, the information, but make it as generic as possible so that you can actually customize your different fields in there, and where you want your product to be categorized in, how you want it to be showing up on search engines, et cetera, et cetera. We need to have that flexibility, because there's a big difference from mum and pa's in a certain country to your multi-$100 million businesses in other countries. So it's sort of that hybrid approach, like we need to get them all into a standardized system so that they can be presented equally online. And when I say equally online, equally sort of showing that information, and that allows them to differentiate their product majorly, because you can say, this is why we're different. Whereas, traditionally with a brochure, that's very hard to establish, and that's why there's been a huge dependencies on travel agencies and travel agents to do that, which is fantastic. But then there's also a huge amount of resources to be training all of those travel agents as well. So and then that's where I see the future of that going, is that you're going to have specialist travel agents that might be working from home and all the rest of it, that can actually be specialists in certain products, that can be specialists in certain destinations. And that's where, but we need to sort of try to present that online as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think standardization does need to come into it. It's the only way this industry is going to move forward. No, I mean, that goes for not just operators or platforms like yourself, it's OTAs and various other things. I know it's hard. I know everyone's doing their own thing, but I think at some point it needs to come together. If it's going to be the only way
Yeah.
to move the industry forward, really, for sure. And I can't see it working any other way. If it gets more fragmented, no, it's just going to it's just going to be to the detriment for consumers,
Yeah.
trying to pick and choose what they want and stuff like that, and purchasing and everything else. So hopefully it will happen one day.
Exactly. And the same sort of thing happens with tour operators, because that's some of the biggest problems now, is that there's, particularly in the tours activities, ticketing, multi-day tours, there's options out there for software, but we all say the same thing, right? So you go to the website and everyone's sort of saying the same, we do this, we do that. But,
Yep.
and that's where we need to get to a stage of standardizing, saying, look, these guys, and that's where we'll refer people off to people that are specialists in activities and day tours. And hopefully it is happening vice versa, where they're referring them to us for multi-day. And that's where it needs a little bit more transparency and information. And it's why we've shaped our business model where there's sort of no upfront fees, no monthly fees. And we've gone with that transactional sort of approach at this stage, but giving the flexibility that they can adopt, a set fee if they really wanted to, and have a monthly fee to drop that percentage down, because we just don't want any barriers to entry. We want people to use it. You're not locked into any contracts, and we're not doing our job if we can't, retain you as a customer, and we're delivering everything that you want to.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. So where do you see TourAmigo in 5 years' time? What sort of advancements are you hoping to make, or that you're maybe working on already? So how do you see the future of the system?
Yeah, so it's we've gone through a bit of an extensive beta testing program, which has opened up many more segments, and we've actually had to shut off some segments that because it was just getting too much. But we first focus is the multi-day, and that's our primary expertise. But then we've attracted a lot of DMCs, destination management companies, right, who are, it's a very similar sort of setup that they're looking for, because we can plug in all the suppliers, all their global contracts, anyone they work with, and also manage all their distribution, and where they're selling through direct, or because it's sort of that hybrid approach with a lot of the DMCs nowadays, where they're acting as the agent as well as the DMC. And then it's sort of, we had a chat the other day with a luxury yachting company, and they're like, this would be amazing. Can you just change the words from coach to yacht? And so we've gone, yeah, maybe. And so we see in the future that it will be able to be adopted into many different segments. And it's the same sort of functionalities. There'd be some tweaks and all the rest of it, but it'll be mainly changing terminology. Right now we're focusing on English speaking guiding. But that can go into, we can easily do the multi-currency. That's all, you can do all the currency exchange in there as you see fit. But, we can easily start entering into that sort of other markets, such as the Asian market that has, that might be sold locally in different languages. But look, in the future, it's basically looking at, we're expanding our distribution network, but the focus is on that software and just constantly making improvements. We do want to become the oracle of the multi-day tours, and we're really on track with being sort of that specialist and expertise in multi-day tours and in software. So that will lead into many other opportunities, particularly if you have like a startup or a company that's looking for consultancy service. And Chris, we've talked about this before, where we can say, look, we can see this is what's selling in this sort of destination. This would be the best sort of product to set up. It might be a 9-day as opposed to a 10-day. And so we can give sort of advice based on data and marketing service through yourselves and whatnot to help those companies grow their business and understand the data behind what is actually the most effective and efficient tour in each destination.
Yeah, it's great. No, it's well, a lot of our customers come from the multi-day tour sort of sector, and it's a part of the sector that's still a little bit behind in terms of when it comes to your typical day tours and stuff like that. And there's not many options out there for platforms or online booking or OTAs or anything like that. No, there is a couple, but there's not. It seems to have been left behind a little bit, and it's good to sort of see there's going to be more development in this, and hopefully pushing that side of the sector forward, because it's arguably the largest part of tours and activities. So it's good to sort of see it's hopefully going to get pushed forward technology-wise and more bookable online.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And that's the whole purpose. Like we don't mind where you distribute your product. That the whole purpose of us is to make sure that you've got this back end software, and as part of the standard feature, you get a bookable API out of it. Like,
mhm.
and that just opens up so many windows. It's not as simple as just a trip itinerary. We're not just building itineraries. This is like your financial system. You can connect in your phone, your accounting software. You can, so, and all different features will continue to evolve based on feedback from the customers.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So if anyone wanted to get in touch with yourself or know more about TourAmigo, where's the best place to go to?
Yep. So to our website, TourAmigo.com, there's a contact form there. It allows you just to put in some basic information just so we have a context, and one of our team will reach out and we can organise a conversation. At the moment, unfortunately, it's probably on video. But also the partnerships at TourAmigo is our main email address, that you can easily sort of contact us there. But the contact form online is probably ideal because we can get a bit of an idea about what sort of company you are, and we can tailor that sort of meeting to your needs.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I know you travel around a lot, so hopefully at some point we'll finally meet up at an
Yep.
event, or whether it's a rival or somewhere else, or and actually, share a beer of it. It's been a long time since we've done that with anyone, so it'll be good to good to do that at some point.
Yeah, yeah. We'll
Where are you
probably
based
have
just now?
one beer and
Are you in Australia just now, or are you?
no. So like yeah, I got out. So I'm actually in. That's all I'm going to say on that one. But yeah, no, I'm in Greece at the moment. And then coming to London at the end of this month. So I'll be at WTM. If anyone's there and wants to catch up, we'll be wearing the bright pink shirts, which we prefer to call aggressive salmon, and and then we'll be going down to Seville for Tourism Innovation Summit, and then I'm across to America for Focusrite in Port Lauderdale. So if anyone's there, please hit us up. We'd love to meet up in person. It's going to be a unique experience after the last 2 years to actually have physical contact. And yeah, I'm scared that we all might have one beer and that'll be the end of the night after.
I know, I know. No, saying that though, I don't know what it's been like over there, but especially in Scotland here, it's like, no, we've probably been drinking more indoors because we've been ordering in bottles of wine and beer and everything else just to get
Yeah,
through the pain of the last 2 years, to be honest. So,
exactly.
but no, I can't wait till we all be up again, and so hopefully at some point soon we'll do that. But no, Murray, I can't thank you enough. It's been a great chat, knowing more about multi-day tour activities, what you're trying to do in terms of the technology, pushing it forward. And yeah, anyone listening to it who's in multi-day wanted to know more, please get in touch with Murray, and hopefully they can help them out. So I appreciate it.
Fantastic. Yeah, greatly appreciated.